Antitrust Act was originally enforced. Talking about breakups, potential of criminal enforcement actions, and actions against individuals making decisions as well as the companies themselves. I took a position to obey the law as they would, but we see now that that is very much not the case, and that they're not going to stop until they're forced. So I think law enforcement needs to take on an entirely new tone if these companies don't get speedily in line with the requirements of the law. I think regulation is also incredibly important. Apple and Google are masters at making bogus security arguments and using lobbyists to gaslight influenceable people in Congress to buy into their arguments they know aren't real, but are overcoming with donations. I think we need very, very clear legislation, such as the Open Apps Market Act, saying that digital platforms cannot monopolize distribution. They cannot disadvantage competing distribution sources. They cannot disadvantage competing web browsers or web browser engines. And they cannot shut down or disadvantage any of the vectors that competitors need to use to compete broadly across the entire platform. So the Open Apps Market Act solves the app part of that problem, but it only solves it as in its current form in the United States. I've come to realize that Apple and Google kind of want every country, all the more than 100 countries around the world with app economies, to have to go off and do their own antitrust enforcement and litigation and force each one to play out their malicious compliance strategy in detail before they comply, calculating that they can probably delay this another 5 or 10 years and continue collecting their monopoly rents if they don't. I think that needs to be shut down by the United States. And if the United States doesn't solve this problem worldwide for these U.S. gatekeepers, you're just going to see a giant maze of international regulation and gridlock as different countries regulate these platforms in different ways, and they're all forced into Byzantine solutions. I think the answer should be something like extending the Open Apps Market Act with a developer bill of rights, saying every developer has the right to compete if they choose with the platform maker's store, payment service, web browser engine, and every other critical component of the technology stack on equal terms with no self-preferencing and no friction. I think some sort of enforcement regime like that with universal jurisdiction is required to rein these companies in line. One of the most disappointing aspects of the Epic versus Google case, which we won in front of a jury on every single count, after the jury deliberated for about 5 hours, I might say, it was an incredible victory in court.